Good afternoon, Dr. Johnson, members of the board, Mr. Thurman. The Division of Human Resources report for the month of December 2013 is standard in nature as it shows the number of newly non-contracted employees, new contracted employees, resignations and terminations. It's important to note that for the month of December, coming up to this time, we have contracted 56 teachers, a total of 178 new non-contracted employees, 60 of whom are substitute employees, and that is once again to assist with our new substitute time management process. We have a total of 75 resignations and 3 terminations. I've also provided for you the vacancy update, and once again I stress that I provide this information on the day of so that I can give you the most accurate information. As of today's posting, we have a total of 43 instructional vacancies. We have also provided a comparison chart with other metropolitan Atlanta area schools. Within those 43 vacancies, 6 are special education, only 2 science, and 0 math vacancies at this current time. I've also included the vacancy trend data, retirements, and resignations for the last 3-year period. This concludes the Division of Human Resources report for December 2013.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Orson.
I have a couple of questions on behalf of my colleague, Mr. McMahon, who's not here today. The first was about, and I think you may have alluded to this, was about the increase in transportation costs, and I guess there's been a corresponding increase in bus drivers and related personnel numbers that we've been hiring. Is that correct?
We have a set allotment of bus drivers, so the majority of the bus driver subs that we hire are ones that we place in training to assume those roles once we have a vacancy for drivers.
So mostly these are substitutes who are, and do we pay for their training, and is there a whole program?
Yes, sir. I'll allow Mr. Wilkins to speak to that.
Okay.
That's correct, Mr. Orson.
And what's the, I'm just curious, is the cost of training a driver, and, do we find people kind of passing through our system to get jobs elsewhere, or do we have a fairly good retention rate? This is sort of the broad question of.
Yes, I can provide that information to you via a report.
Okay, well, that would be great. And then the second question, again, was I know we funded the incentive program for attendance, and I know it's obviously we can't pay it out to the end of the year, but are we seeing any market changes in attendance by bus drivers as a result of that? Well, I can't say as a result, but are we seeing an improvement?
I'll allow Mr. Wilkins to answer that once again.
I can't answer that question today, Mr. Orson, but I think that as a incentive for the drivers overall, it certainly is relevant to their interests.
Yeah, so maybe in January it'd be a halfway, maybe get a check-in for sort of a comparison of attendance rates.
Well, yes, we can do that.
Okay.
Mr. Thurman.
Well, one thing I'll share with Mr. Orson, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
One of the things we have noted is the attendance has improved dramatically this year, according to what Mr. Wilkins has said in the past. And we can't say it's directly attributed to the meritorious attendance, but one of the real problems we addressed, we were concerned about whether or not we had enough bus drivers, because we had such a high absenteeism, which you used to call me every day to remind me of, actually. And you've not called me, so I guess that's the best indication.
Absolutely improved.
I've not received one call from Mr. Orson regarding a tardy bus pickup in the morning. Is that?
It was mostly in the afternoon.
In the afternoon. And that was one of the things we wanted to address. And I just think it's just overall management. We put in much better training for the supervisors as well as senior management, and we're getting a better result as a result of the investment in time and resources and attention, because it was just a sore point that, quite frankly, was quite embarrassing towards the end of last year.
Yeah, and I attribute that to an overall improvement in morale. I mean, one of my next questions, which I'll sort of merge with Mr. McMahon's, is, we still have a fairly high number of vacancies. I mean, Gwinnett has a higher number, but I think they're a much larger system. And when I look back at the data in previous years, over the last 2 years, we've been pretty high. And we know, I'm sure that part of that is morale. Part of it was last year accelerated by the retirement incentive that you had to retire by November 30th, if I recall. But I am concerned about both any projected retirements or resignations we're going to have at the end of the first semester. And, you know, and again, this may be a broader question today, so I'm okay if you come back in January, kind of the broader plan, because I do think we still have some lingering problems about retaining, you know, experienced employees and obviously filling the ranks with people who want to stay. And so maybe in January we might have a more in-depth discussion on that. And one more question. I noticed in here we noticed a couple of places where we found, I guess teachers are out because of a lack of certification. My question is really just about understanding the process of how we get people in. At what point do we figure out that their certification isn't appropriate for the position? I think there were 3 at one school and 2 at another school. And I just want to understand that process. I know all these systems probably have some lags about how do we ensure, what's the process for ensuring that teachers are properly certified to be in the classrooms to which they're assigned?
Yes, sir. Based upon the Professional Standards Commission guidelines, teachers are allowed to have a non-renewable teaching certificate for a period not to exceed 3 years. That period used to be 5 years. However, after 3 years, they're no longer highly qualified. So what the district has done was take an aggressive measure. We actually have a teacher quality analyst who tracks and monitors all individuals with the NT certification. We provide quarterly reports to those particular teachers where they're required to forward information to us, telling us where they are in their program. If, in fact, we see that they are not progressing and we feel that it is in the best interest of the district whereby those teachers are not progressing at all, we will work with them to either resign or to move forward. But essentially, through our certification program, our certification process, if individuals are not certified and do not hold that professional certification, then by law they cannot teach. And so that is our process for assisting those teachers with moving forward, either towards completing that program, or if we see that that program cannot be completed and the educator elects to move forward, then we certainly allow them to do so.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Coleman.
So I had asked a question, I guess, before this session about what we were doing, Mr. Orson's question, to think about retention next year, and you had a very thoughtful answer. So if you'd like to review any of that, I'd welcome it. And then I had a specific follow-up question just about the evaluation instrument. And you talk about how that will become a bigger part of onboarding and offboarding or off-ramping
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
folks based on the results of those evaluations. And so just 2 general questions. If now is the right time, you know, reviewing some of the basics of what you sent out would be excellent, and then just getting a little deeper into the evaluation instrument and how you plan to use that in the future.
Yes, sir. Mr. Coleman posed a question. Would you use the opportunity to walk us through your thoughts on how to improve retention next year? And specifically, I stated that retention remains at the forefront of all that we do within the district. Retention is a concerted effort between all divisions. We have to ensure that finance, facilities, they are correct. We have the IT support. We have the curriculum in place, as well as school personnel or school administration has the essential management to take place. We did note that there were 3 main reasons why teachers have left the district in the past few years as based upon our retention, or shall I say our exit interview. And those were salary, leadership, as well as organizational culture and climate. Some of the action steps that we are currently taking and will continue to take to address retention will be first to have a rigid and a high quality interview process. We want to select the best candidates, but after selecting and training those candidates, we want to make sure we retain them. So ways to retain those candidates, one would be the strong instructional culture where we have teachers, once again, to be greatly involved within the instructional processes that take place, and the Bridge Initiative, as well as the strategic plan, and all that we're doing, we're actually bringing all of our resources together to not only support economically disadvantaged students, but all students as a whole. The next one was high quality professional development. As I stated within my response, our professional development department went from 12 individuals to 5. We now have the funding to have PL liaisons, a total of 20 throughout the entire district, and that is once again to support teachers, to assist in retaining them and helping them to develop with their instructional processes and practices. Our evaluation instrument, last year was the first year for our teacher keys. Well, this year, we're going to utilize that instrument to be primarily engaged within the process for non-renewal, because if in fact you are rated as ineffective with your instructional practices, there are a number of methods in place that will assist you to be remediated. But if in fact you are ineffective and the principal has supporting data and information, then we will utilize that to quote unquote off-ramp those individuals who are being ineffective or marginal. Lastly, as I stated, other retention efforts was the restoration of 2 furlough days, 2 work calendar reduction days, and that was instrumental in restoring personnel as well. The restoration of those 2 days once again. And then lastly, as I stated, district accreditation, a visionary superintendent, and a board that supports administration. So those were my areas as it relates to saying what we could do as a whole, starting with the Board of Education and touching all divisions in terms of working to retain teachers.
That's a great update, and I would say, and we don't have to get into it deeper now, I mean, I think it's a big step in the right direction to be using the teacher keys in that way, and I know after you've kind of gone through a cycle of that, it would be great 6 months from now or whenever that process is complete enough that we have some results from that
yes,
to
sir.
kind of hear how it went and to hear what we're planning to do next year. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No further discussion. Is there any opposition to placing this item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, this item will be placed on the consent agenda.